The royal rota and mainstream media might be too terrified these days to call out the egregious lies of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, afraid of their ever-increasing lawfare. But trust me, I'm not. So today I can report a world exclusive that his new and false claims about the late Queen and the late Princess Diana during a softball interview with the Sussex's favoured propaganda outfit Woke ITV has caused hurt and blind rage within the royal family. Just when you think the Duke of Delusion would struggle to go any lower, he somehow manages to sink to new depths. I am, of course, referring to his outlandish claim, backed up by zero evidence, either anecdotal or document-based, that the late Queen was privately backing his various historic High Court phone hacking cases. Watch.
But he's confident he has some support.
You said in court documents that the Queen, your granny as you call her, supported your claim. What do you think she would think of what you're doing now?
I wish we had many conversations before she passed. This is very much something that she supported. She knew how much this meant to me. I think she's very much up there going, see this through to the end, without question.
And he is determined to see this through. But
my royal sources have reacted with total disdain in terms of both the validity and accuracy of that claim. And let me be clear about this, it suggests very much that Harry is lying again. So one source told me the reality is that the Queen's most senior staff were intimately involved in sensitive discussions with News UK about settling phone hacking claims, which Prince William reluctantly did. If any conversations took place between Her Majesty before her death and Harry about phone hacking cases, she would have been keeping the peace and avoiding confrontation. Now, I don't believe for a second that the Queen, a public servant to the very end, believed the best use of her grandson's time was pursuing spurious court cases alongside me celebs like Hugh Grant and Charlotte Church, simply designed to seek revenge and financial reward for a 20-year-old scandal that has already been well and truly resolved. Harry also stunned royal courtiers by attempting to use the press as the reason why his wife Meghan Markle will never return to the UK. Watch this.
So the fight falls to perhaps the only person with the persistence and financial firepower to pursue this through the civil courts.
I don't think there's anybody else in the world that is better suited and placed to be able to see this through than myself.
But he fears negative tabloid narratives endanger him and his family.
All it takes is one lone actor, one person who reads this stuff to act on what they have read. And whether it's a knife or acid, whatever it is, and these are things that are a genuine concern for me. It's one of the reasons why I won't bring my wife back to this country.
Oh, come on. That is codswallop on so many levels. So what Harry's saying, just to be very clear about it, is that if there is any attack whatsoever on Meghan, that it is the fault of her critics. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because no one seems to care about the critics of Nigel Farage or Donald Trump when they are publicly attacked. So what's the difference here? But the other really serious point that I would make is that the biggest purveyor of mistruths and misinformation about the royal family in recent years have come from Harry and Meghan themselves for commercial gain. All of that aside, though, it is widely known that the reason Meghan is terrified to return to the UK is because of the public reception she believes she would receive. To suggest she is somehow less safe in the UK than the US, or any other country actually that she visits, is just ludicrous, and we all know it. I'm also told that William remains particularly livid that Harry continues to invoke the memory of their late mother Princess Diana in his various campaigns, Doing so breaks a rock-solid pledge agreed by the two brothers in 2017 after making two intimate documentaries about her death for the BBC and ITV that they would no longer talk about her in public unless it was absolutely essential. And the idea is that that was to allow her to rest in peace while protecting her remarkable charity legacy. Yet, in the new interview with ITV's latest propagandist for the Sussexes, Rebecca Barry, Harry took direct aim at William's characterisation of their mother as paranoid in the years before her death.
Other victims of hacking that I've spoken to have described the paranoia that it creates. Do you identify with that?
I think paranoia it's a very interesting word because, yes, then it could be paranoia. But then when you're vindicated, it proves that you weren't being paranoid. You know, same with my mother. You know, there is evidence to suggest that she was being hacked in the mid-90s, probably one of the first people to be hacked. And yet, still today, the press, the tabloid press, very much enjoy painting her as being paranoid. But she wasn't paranoid. She was absolutely right of what was happening to her. And she's not around today to find out the truth.
Does your mother motivate you in this legal fight?
There's all sorts of things that motivate me.
While it's never been proven in court that Princess Diana was hacked, the past remains raw.
Other victims of hacking that I've spoken to.
While it might be hard for Harry to accept, here are some home truths. He didn't actually know anything about his mother's state of mind in the months before her death. Harry has admitted publicly he has virtually no memories of his mother as a child. Now, that is not the same as William, because William, by contrast, was actually one of her main confidants. Lots of people say it was really inappropriate, actually. William, at 15, was her shoulder to cry on and was brought in on many of her interactions with the media, even on sensitive matters of her love life. There's a famous story, actually, where Piers Morgan spoke about a lunch with William and Diana, where William actually joked about using his Eton dartboard as a place where he could put the face of Will Carling's wife, a woman who at the time Diana was publicly rowing with. So he was very involved with all of these conversations. William knew Diana was paranoid. He isn't trying to degrade his mother's memory in any way. He is simply stating a fact. So for Harry to weaponize that in his latest interview is particularly cruel, especially given he has now become far worse than any tabloid newspaper when it comes to spilling the secrets of the royal family. But he doesn't care. Harry knows there is no way back for him with his family, so his campaign of vengeance goes on. Remember, this is all about sending Piers Morgan to jail, a ludicrous idea. And it's actually making him an increasingly unhappy and self-obsessed man. But to react now, let me bring in my superstar panel. And today I'm delighted to be joined by the owner of True Conservative Media, and my goodness, we need more of that, don't we? Chris Davies, and the former leader of UKIP, but so much more than that, Rebecca Jane. So great to see both of you again. It has been far too long. Rebecca, I forced you to watch this woe is me fest last night. What's your verdict?
It's just the same thing repeating over and over and over again. It's like a broken record. Like, what more can we say about it? Yeah, okay, you say that your phone's been hacked. You say that it's giving you horrific issues throughout the rest of your life. There's a lot of things that's giving him a lot of horrific issues throughout the rest of his life. This is not the be-all and the end-all of it.
Chris, what was your take?
Dan, thanks for having me on. Harry is always the victim, isn't he? It's never Harry's fault. Whatever's happened, it's never Harry's fault. It's okay for Harry to write a book, to appear on an interview with Oprah, to tell lies, to do whatever he wants with no responsibility and no accountability. I thought the Montecito Mourners were meant to be going away to get away from the public gaze. All they've done since they've been there is basically prostitute themselves around for anybody that's prepared to throw a pound note or a dollar bill at them. I think he's absolutely disgusting. I don't want him back in the UK. I don't want his wife back here either.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that, Chris. The thing is, Rebecca, what I cannot stand is that he's now trying to change narratives involving dead members of the family, knowing full well that they are unable to fight back. But remember, Rebecca, I've been very close to this story. I mean, I was working at News UK when a lot of these negotiations with Prince William were going on, and I knew a little bit about the negotiations and what was happening. And it was actually the Queen's advisors who were involved in this. So maybe Harry's had a conversation with the Queen where he said, oh, I'm going to court, and she's just sort of nodded along. But she didn't want the royal family to be embroiled in years and years of legal action against Britain's free press. Like, that's a terrible look for the royal family. And by the way, Rebecca, that's not me excusing the behaviour of newspapers, especially during the phone hacking scandal. But remember, that's been dealt with criminally. People have gone to jail for that, and the News of the World actually shut down.
Yeah, of course. You know, and the royal family's number one rule, isn't it, is that they don't complain and they don't explain. Like, this brings the ultimate shame on them in a lot of ways. And you're right, you know, we don't justify the things that happen, because actually they were pretty horrific. And yes, they did have a lot of, you know, pretty horrific consequences. That being said, though, of course he's going to pull out the mum card and the gran card, because it's the ultimate victim card for him to be able to play. He can't actually just fight his own battles, can he? He can't just say what he thinks and what he feels. He has to bring in his mother and his late grandmother, because he knows how loved they were by the public, and he knows now that he's not. So because he can't get the sympathy on his own, because he can't fight his own battles, he has to bring that in. And I think people would have more respect for him if he actually didn't do that.
But first, I'm delighted to tell you today about Verso, our first ever sponsor here on Outspoken. As you may know, I've decided when I entered my 40s that staying healthy became really important. I actually focused on staying fit and doing the 16-8 fast. And it has helped, but it actually only got me so far. And that's because scientists like David Sinclair have proven we can now reverse aging with interventions that go beyond healthy habits. So I was looking for a product that would enhance what I was doing, but also one that was backed up with solid evidence. So that's why every morning I use Celbene by Verso, which has scientifically proven ingredients to fight the effects of aging by increasing NAD+ levels. Now, NAD+ is the stuff that actually powers every single cell in your body. From a personal point of view, this product's been transformative to me. Fasting's easier, I've lost fat, I'm eating less, I'm sleeping better. Verso say actually that's due to its blood sugar regulating effects, which lead to fewer cravings. So it's taken years off my life. Hope it does the same for you too. And Verso, what's really great, it actually publishes third-party testing from each batch produced, so it guarantees that you know you are getting exactly what you paid for. And I'm very excited to say that as our first ever sponsor, Verso is giving you an amazing offer. If you head right now to buy.ver.so/outspoken, you'll save 15% on your first order if you use the coupon code OUTSPOKEN. The link is right now in our YouTube and Rumble description, but I will repeat it right now, buy.ver.so/outspoken, and use the coupon code OUTSPOKEN. Well, I completely agree. And Chris, you've got to admit, this is now really difficult for Prince William, because there was this very clear pact in 2017 for them to stop speaking constantly about Diana and trying to invoke the memory of Diana. And that's now all Harry does. But he's been very careful with choosing the word paranoid, because that is a direct riposte to Prince William, who you remember after the Panorama, that report over the terrible BBC actions involving Martin Bashir, William actually went on the record on camera and described his mother as paranoid. Now, he wasn't doing that in any sort of horrible way. William was the one who was really close to Diana throughout all of this period in a way that Harry wasn't, because he was younger. You know, I'm not saying that there was any nefarious reason why Harry wasn't involved. He was a kid, he was a child, whereas William was a much more responsible teenager who Diana had taken into her trust for the last couple of years of her life.
If I was William last night and I had the misfortune to have to watch Woke ITV, as both Rebecca and I did, I would have thought that ITV had bought the rights to Only Fools and Horses.
Yes.
Because the number of times that Harry invokes the late Queen and Princess Diana, I just find it absolutely incorrigible. He's got no class, he's got no quality, he's got no depth. It is the me show. It's the Harry and Meghan show. And that's all they exist for now. They are a parody of a royal couple. If you cast your mind back to the time that they were wed, when they were at their absolute peak of their popularity share price, the nation absolutely loved them. And if you look at where they've gone and the short period of time it's taken for all of that good human capital to be eroded, it is a crying shame what's happened. But I go back to what I said a couple of minutes ago, Dan. These two just need to be ignored. They get far too much oxygen. And the best thing to do with them is to ignore them.
Yeah, that's an interesting discussion, isn't it, Rebecca? Because a lot of people have said that to me, and I do understand that. But my view is that I have to expose their very egregious lies, because the problem you've got, Rebecca, is that the members of the royal family and the courtiers cannot speak publicly. So the members of the royal family obviously could if they chose to, but they don't, because can you imagine how classless that would be? And it's never something that Charles and William and Catherine and the like are going to engage in. But the courtiers, Rebecca, the people who actually were working for Harry and Meghan during that time, they call themselves the Sussex Survivors Club because they went through so much. They are actually legally banned from speaking publicly, because when you go to work for the royal family, you're subject to the Official Secrets Act, which means that you would actually be breaking the law to talk about what happened. So I feel like sometimes I have to represent what these people feel and the anger that they have behind the scenes about the way that Harry and Meghan are completely misrepresenting events, both from their time within the royal family plus what's been going on after it.
It's a really fair point, actually, is that, and I've never really looked at it from that angle, so thank you. But no, I do agree. The problem is you're never going to win with a narcissist. Like, it's impossible. It doesn't matter what anybody says or what anybody does. They're going to do whatever they want. They're going to claim their victims regardless. And, you know, we go back to that point of, in the beginning, they were absolutely loved in this country. They've done this to themselves. They have created everything that they have now become. They've created the hatred that is. The other part of this is, you know, non-disclosure agreements. If you're not going to be an awful person and if you're not going to be a nightmare, why do you actually need to have them? I understand to a certain extent why the royal family would need them. And I do appreciate there are probably some secrets and all the rest of it that they do need to keep out. But we're not talking about secrets. We're talking about human behaviour. And at the end of the day, if you're going to treat people badly and you're going to behave inappropriately, people should be allowed to speak out. But unfortunately, they're not. You now have to do it on everybody else's behalf and other people, obviously. And you're still never going to win. It is right. We should be ignoring them. We should be pretending that they don't exist because that's what they asked for and that's what they wanted. But they don't really want it because then they can't be victims. So it's an awful situation. I don't know what the solution is other than we have to just keep on speaking the truth and unfortunately having to endure this nonsense.
I mean, Chris, I would say it's a case of diminishing returns, though, because every time they speak now, they actually lose more credibility. They do get less attention. It's not like the Oprah Winfrey interview when the whole world stopped to listen to their lies. And so I think there is now a lot of skepticism. And the biggest thing for me, Chris, is that I think they have destroyed their own legacy. I mean, in the history books now, Harry and Meghan are going to be comparable to the Duke of Windsor and Wallis Simpson. I genuinely believe that's how history will view them now. Maybe even worse as time goes on, although they were Nazi sympathizers, so maybe not.
Well, when you put it like that, Dan, yes. But in truth, you're right. They are eroding deeper and deeper, and they just don't seem to understand that when you're in a hole, just stop digging, just be quiet, just show some humility and some grace, and remember what it was to be, as a young man, as Harry, a royal, to be committed to public service, because that seems to have gone completely out of the window. His vendettas are many and varied, and I don't think he just wants Piers Morgan in prison. I think he wants the free press to be silenced.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's any one newspaper group, because he's attacking all of them. I just think he wants now, it's a vendetta on his part, that he does not want a free press. He does not want investigative journalism. He does not want to be held account, because he's a liar, proven again and again.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.